Sometimes we fail to step back and systematically reflect on the dynamics inside and outside our industries. When all of your energy is primarily focused on operational efficiency, you risk not having a strategy that can actually help you build an enduring business. Welcome back to Agile Growth with Sri, where CEOs and business owners find valuable ideas to accelerate growth. This is the third video in my 6-part series on the 5 most common strategy mistakes made by CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs. In my last video, I discussed the first mistake, which is not having a strategy. Let's now focus on the second mistake, which is basically believing that your focus on operational effectiveness is your strategy. In this video, I'll do 3 things. I will talk about the second mistake that I see around strategy. We will get into why this happens. And then finally, I'll give you some ideas on what you can do about it. Operational effectiveness basically means performing similar activities better than your rivals or your competitors perform them. Now, these could include areas such as reducing defects, developing better products, developing them faster, increasing your sales effectiveness, onboarding your customers more efficiently, outsourcing, offshoring, using Amazon Web Services for your cloud, improving internal processes, and more. You get the point. You understand what operational efficiency means. Now, when I'm working with my clients on the execution side, I am definitely encouraging all of them to pursue all of these avenues. You absolutely have to do this. I am not telling you not to focus on operational effectiveness. These are all good things, but these are not your strategy. If everybody in your industry is doing these things, then they become table stakes for you to play. They, by themselves, don't give you a competitive advantage if everybody's doing it. When it comes to strategy, I will remind you again of Michael Porter's definition. Strategy is the creation of a unique and valuable position involving a different set of activities. In contrast, strategic positioning means performing similar activities in different ways. Let's just use a simple example to kind of bring this to life. Back in the early 2000s, I used to live in the Washington, D.C. metro area, in Virginia and in Maryland. And at that point, if I ever needed to use a taxi service, there were a few different cab services out there. You'd have a fleet of cars, and they would focus on making sure that they have good cars, good drivers, good call center for great customer service, and so forth. All that is them focusing on operational effectiveness. You'd have the red cab company or yellow cab company and so on and so forth. They all basically offered the same service. They claimed that they were the best, but in reality, there was no difference between any of them. They seemed very similar. Then came along one of those companies who basically created a website by which you could book a cab. And that was a game changer back in the day. Now, imagine you're somebody who hates calling the cab company, being on hold, and dealing with a customer service agent, providing all the information on the phone. Imagine if you had to spell out your name like mine, Shrikant Seshadri. That gets annoying pretty fast. And instead of doing all of that, you could do it online. That is so much easier and so much better. Now, that's an example of that company actually using strategic positioning and engaging in different activities than just focus on operational effectiveness. Now, fast forward a dozen years later, and then Uber comes in with a completely different strategy in a space that had been around for a long period of time, which is basically taxi cabs. And they changed the game, not just in one city, but across the globe. Now, that's a brilliant example of strategic positioning and value creation versus just solely focusing on operational effectiveness, which is what the typical cab companies were doing. When all of your energy is primarily focused on operational efficiency, you risk not having a strategy that can actually help you build an enduring business. Now, let's unpack this a little bit more and see why this happens. There are 3 reasons that come to mind. Sometimes we can be very inward focused and think about all the things that we are doing to create value for our customers. However, we may not have a deep enough understanding of our customers' world and exactly how they make buying decisions and what they truly value. Another reason we see this mistake happening is because we don't have a good understanding of our competitors and exactly what they're delivering. I've had CEOs explain to me that they are one of the top companies in the region, in the country, or in the world. And when I kind of challenge them a little bit and say, help me understand how you're determining this, they don't have great answers. Sometimes we might just be using language to motivate ourselves and our teams, but they may not be supported by objective data. A third reason for making this mistake is when we invest a lot of time and energy in developing our product or service offering, we can convince ourselves that it's truly superior. Sometimes we fail to step back and systematically reflect on the dynamics inside and outside our industries, which then leads us to just believe that whatever we're focusing on, the operational effectiveness, is actually a unique strategy. So I've described the mistake, I've kind of talked a little bit about why it happens. Now let me give you some ideas on what are some steps you can take to fix this problem. One of the first things that you have to do is assess whether your strategy is mostly about operational effectiveness. Ask yourself, what is your strategy? And then analyze whether you're doing what everyone else is doing, or are you doing different things, or are you doing similar things differently? That reflection can give you some clues into whether your strategy is primarily about operational effectiveness, or is it something beyond that? The second thing to do is to kind of scan the competitive marketplace and to see if everyone is offering something very similar to you. How do the customers perceive you? Do they look at all of you as interchangeable options, or do they see you as something unique? Do you really appear like everyone else, or do you stand out in the crowd? I would say that gaining the awareness is the first step of developing a solid strategy. Let me wish you success in being more strategic. Thank you for watching, and please leave your questions and feedback in the comment section. See you in my next video, where I'll talk about the third mistake, which is the strategy is a secret. Thank you.